Nobody expected the WNBA to cross a line this terrifying, but look closely at her bare arms right now. Deep, violent red claw marks are carved straight into her skin, exposing the dark, ugly truth the league tried to hide. The entire sports world has been plunged into utter disbelief after explosive, fresh footage leaked, revealing the horrifying aftermath of Caitlin Clark's latest game against the Chicago Sky. On paper, she delivered absolute perfection, a mind-blowing 37 points, 10 unreal assists, and 8 ruthless three-pointers that completely humiliated her opponents on national television. But behind that victory was a total bloodbath. This was no longer basketball, it was a targeted physical execution caught on camera. Clark was left visibly bruised, bleeding, and fighting off defenders who physically clawed and ripped at her body for 4 straight quarters just to slow her down. While DiJonai Carrington and the Sky turned the hardwood into a violent battleground, the officials stood by with completely silent whistles. The league is now exploding into absolute panic because what went down the exact second the final buzzer sounded has triggered a scandal that will change Caitlin Clark's career forever. Nobody expected the boiling jealousy inside WNBA locker rooms to reach a point where player safety is completely thrown out the window. To truly understand the sheer rage and violence taking place on the court today, you have to look at the toxic history that has been quietly festering behind closed doors for months. Ever since Caitlin Clark stepped into this league, a massive, bitter target was painted directly on her back. She didn't just enter the WNBA, she completely hijacked it. She brought sold-out arenas, multi-million-dollar private jet charters, record-breaking television ratings, and unprecedented global media attention. But instead of celebrating this generational boom, established veterans and rival superstars felt completely erased, deeply insulted, and consumed by relentless envy. Behind the scenes, the emotional tension reached a dangerous boiling point. Players who had dedicated a decade of their lives to this league felt like background extra characters in the Caitlin Clark show. Whispers turned into loud backstage arguments, and locker room chatter quickly transformed into an unwritten rule among rival teams: make her pay for every single point. Players like DiJonai Carrington and Angel Reese became the faces of this unspoken crusade, representing a deeply rooted resentment that went far beyond competitive basketball. The rivalry between Clark and Carrington wasn't just built on court matchups. It was fueled by personal animosity, media rivalries, and a desperate desire to prove that the league's biggest star couldn't handle real, unfiltered physical aggression. Game after game, opponent strategy shifted from actual basketball tactics to intentional physical punishment. Opponents realized early on that guarding Clark with traditional feet movement was completely impossible. Her range was too deep, her passing court vision was too fast, and her basketball IQ was light years ahead of anyone trying to contain her. So, the game plan evolved into something far more sinister. Hit her hard, hit her early, and make sure she feels it every time she touches the ball. They wanted to strip away her confidence, break her composure, and force her to cry to the media. Yet, what drove her rivals into an absolute frenzy was Clark's total refusal to break down. Every time she was shoved to the floor, slapped across the face, or shoved out of bounds, she simply got back up, dusted herself off, and let her game do the talking. That silence from Clark only made the resentment grow stronger. Rivals didn't just want to win games anymore, they wanted to break her spirit. The league office watched this dangerous environment develop week after week, choosing to turn a blind eye to protect the illusion of gritty, physical women's basketball. But ignoring the rising heat inside these arenas was a massive, catastrophic mistake. The emotional pressure cooker was officially set to explode, setting the stage for a game that would cross every line of professional sports conduct. Nobody expected the boiling point of this rivalry to unleash a wave of pure chaos that would leave the entire arena completely stunned. As the Indiana Fever clashed with the Chicago Sky, what was supposed to be a marquee basketball matchup immediately devolved into a ruthless, physical ambush. Right from the opening tip-off, DiJonai Carrington and the Sky defense made their intentions violently clear. Carrington didn't just guard Caitlin Clark, she stalked her across the floor with an intensity that bordered on personal hatred. Off-ball shoves, aggressive shoulder bumps, and dirty ankle clipping were unleashed on virtually every single possession. But instead of folding under the intense pressure, Clark did what leaves her rivals completely terrified. She went into absolute superstar mode. She sliced through the Sky defense with surgeon-like precision, raining down impossible step-back three-pointers from the logo and dropping eye-popping full-court passes that left defenders completely helpless. Clark racked up a legendary stat line of 37 points, 10 assists, and 8 three-pointers, completely outclassing Carrington on national television. Whenever Carrington attempted to physically provoke her, stepping into her face and talking trash, Clark simply hit another deep jumper, turned around, and coldly waved her off. The mental humiliation was absolute. Clark was putting on a clinic, proving that no amount of physical bullying could stop her basketball brilliance. But as the score gap widened, the frustration inside the Sky roster reached a dangerous, uncontrolled peak. Then came the first shocking twist that sent massive shockwaves through the entire sports world. With the game slipping completely out of reach, Carrington bypassed traditional defense entirely and launched a direct, violent strike. On a routine jump shot, as Clark released the ball, Carrington didn't contest the shot. She deliberately extended her hand with open, sharp fingers and poked Clark directly into her eye socket. Clark instantly dropped to the hardwood, clutching her face in agony as her eye immediately began to swell up into a terrifying, deep black bruise. The entire arena gasped in utter disbelief as replays clearly caught the intentional, unnatural jabbing motion. It wasn't a play on the ball, it was an outright attack aimed at blinding the league's biggest star. Yet, the true horror was only just beginning. As the medical team rushed onto the court to inspect Clark's bleeding, swollen eye, the lead official walked over to the replay monitor. Everyone expected an immediate flagrant foul, an instant ejection, and a long suspension to follow. But in a move that left players, commentators, and fans in absolute disbelief, the referees reviewed the brutal footage, calmly walked back to center court, and blew the whistle, announcing a no foul had occurred. The stadium erupted into absolute fury. The refs deliberately refused to penalize an intentional blow to the eye, giving opponents an official green light to do whatever it takes to tear Caitlin Clark down. Nobody expected the official refusal to protect Caitlin Clark to unleash a terrifying level of violence that would turn the basketball court into an absolute bloodbath. With the referees explicitly signaling that open attacks on Clark would go unpunished, the Chicago Sky defense completely threw away any remaining attempt to play basketball. In the final quarters of the game, the court transformed into a dangerous gauntlet. Opponents didn't just challenge Clark's drives, they actively hunted her body. Defenders began draping themselves all over her, using sharp fingernails like weapons to grab, scratch, and gouge her arms every single time she crossed half-court. High-resolution cameras zoomed in to capture deep, bloody scratches carved into her skin, physical evidence of a deliberate campaign to wear her down through raw, physical pain. Despite playing with a rapidly swelling black eye and arms covered in fresh claw marks, Clark continued to deliver a masterclass performance. She refused to back down, aggressively driving straight into the heart of the defense and dropping highlight reel assists that left the Sky bench completely furious. Every time Carrington or her teammates tried to rattle Clark, she responded by scoring another bucket and coldly walking away, denying them the reaction they so desperately craved. The psychological defeat was making the opposition completely unhinged. They realized that standard physical play couldn't stop her, dirty hits couldn't stop her, and even referee corruption couldn't stop her from dominating the game. Then came the second major twist that sent absolute shockwaves of panic through the entire arena. With only minutes remaining on the clock, Clark broke away on a fast break for what should have been an easy layup. Out of nowhere, Odyssey Sims sprinted full speed from behind and launched her entire body directly into Clark's back, executing a full-on football-style tackle in midair. Clark flew violently through the air and crashed hard onto the hardwood, her head snapping back as her knees slammed into the floor with a terrifying thud. The entire bench rushed to the edge of the court in sheer horror as Clark lay completely motionless on the floor for several agonizing seconds. It was an undeniable, malicious strike that could have ended her career in an instant. But as the crowd screamed for security and an immediate player suspension, a secret camera angle caught something far more sinister happening on the sidelines. While Clark was lying on the ground in visible agony, Sky players were seen quietly laughing, exchanging subtle high fives, and exchanging knowing smirks with each other. This wasn't just an isolated hard foul born out of game frustration. It was a premeditated, calculated strategy organized to physically knock Caitlin Clark out of the game entirely, and potentially out of the season. Nobody expected the absolute war on the court to trigger a terrifying, catastrophic explosion off the floor that would threaten to pull the entire WNBA apart at the seams. Within minutes of the final buzzer, close-up high-definition images of Caitlin Clark's scratched, bruised arms and her rapidly swelling black eye exploded across social media like a wildfire. Millions of fans, mainstream sports analysts, and legendary NBA icons immediately flooded the internet with pure, unfiltered rage. The viral hashtag campaign demanding the immediate firing of the officiating crew and long-term suspensions for DiJonai Carrington reached millions of posts overnight. Major corporate sponsors, who had invested tens of millions of dollars into the league following Clark's arrival, began issuing frantic, off-the-record warnings to the league office. Protect your biggest asset or prepare for massive financial pullouts. Inside the Indiana Fever locker room, the emotional fallout was catastrophic. The atmosphere felt less like a post-win celebration and more like a high-tension crisis zone. Teammates like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell were visibly shaken, expressing intense anger at the league's failure to intervene while their franchise star was being physically targeted. Clark herself sat silently at her locker, wrapped in ice packs, physically exhausted and visibly bruised. The psychological toll of having to endure an entire season of brutal hits, targeted harassment, and zero official protection was finally catching up to her. When media members flooded into the press room, the air was thick with tension. Clark took the microphone, but instead of blowing up or crying, her eerie, icy calm sent a chilling wave through the room. She refused to validate her rival's dirty tactics, but the pain and frustration etched into her face spoke louder than any words ever could. Meanwhile, inside the Chicago Sky facility, the reaction was pure defiance mixed with rising anxiety. The back-channel leaks from rival locker rooms revealed a toxic rift between players. While Carrington publicly doubled down on social media with subtle, mocking posts brushing off the outrage, private leaks indicated that several players were growing terrified of the massive public backlash. Death threats were flooding into players' inboxes. National talk shows were branding the roster as dirty bullies, and league executives were reportedly holding emergency late-night video conferences to figure out how to handle the mounting PR nightmare. The public divide reached a terrifying pitch. National media personalities openly accused rival veterans of acting out of pure, unadulterated jealousy, while defender groups claimed Clark was receiving special media protection. But the numbers didn't lie. Stat trackers revealed that Clark had only received 8 non-technical free throws across 12 full quarters of play, despite absorbing more physical hits than any guard in league history. The entire sport was breaking down into absolute chaos, and the league's official silence was only pouring gas on the flames, setting up a devastating breaking point that no one saw coming. Nobody expected the official response to this brutal scandal to expose a sinister corporate conspiracy operating at the absolute highest levels of women's basketball. Just as the public outcry reached an absolute boiling point, League Commissioner Kathy Engelbert was forced to call an emergency press conference to address the catastrophic fallout. Fans and sports analysts around the globe waited with bated breath, expecting formal player suspensions, heavily fined officiating crews, and sweeping rule enforcement changes to protect Caitlin Clark from further physical harm. But what was delivered instead sent a violent wave of horror and disbelief through the entire sports world. Instead of holding DiJonai Carrington or the Chicago Sky accountable for the deliberate eye poke and brutal tackles, the league office issued a cold, calculated statement dismissing the injuries as standard physical play inherent to high-level competition. But the nightmare didn't stop there. Behind closed doors, an even more terrifying bombshell was dropped directly onto the Indiana Fever front office. A leaked internal memo revealed that league officials were actively monitoring Clark's emotional reactions and on-court hand gestures, quietly stacking technical fouls against her. One more technical foul, and Caitlin Clark, the most fouled, mauled, and physically abused player in basketball history, would face an automatic, mandatory league suspension. The true, horrifying reality instantly clicked into place. The league office wasn't failing to protect Clark due to incompetence. They were intentionally allowing opposing teams to physically beat her up to keep her dominant stats grounded and maintain artificial league parity. They wanted to break her unbeatable aura, humble her historic rise, and prove that no single generational star is bigger than the WNBA machine itself. The refs weren't missing calls by accident. They were following an unwritten, high-level directive to keep their whistles tucked away while defenders carved up her skin. Now, Caitlin Clark stands at the most dangerous, career-altering crossroads of her entire life. With her arms still covered in deep, bloody claw marks, a swelling black eye, and a league office actively plotting to suspend her the moment she speaks out, the stakes have officially surpassed basketball. Will she allow this toxic, corrupt environment to break her spirit and force her to walk away from the game entirely? Or is she preparing to unleash a nuclear, unprecedented wave of revenge on the court that will tear down the entire establishment from the inside out? The entire sports world is holding its breath because her next move will change the trajectory of professional sports forever. The clock is ticking, the scratches on Caitlin Clark's arms are still fresh, and the future of the entire WNBA is hanging by a single thread. This isn't just about one referee call, one dirty game, or one viral clip. This is an all-out battle for the soul of basketball. Will the league office finally step up to protect their biggest superstar, or will they let physical violence destroy the game we love? We need your voice right now. Smash that like button if you stand with Caitlin Clark, drop your raw, unfiltered thoughts in the comments below, and share this video everywhere to expose what is really happening on the hardwood. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notification bell alerts, because we will be tracking every single update, scandal, and secret league decision as this high-stakes story unfolds. What move should Clark make next? Sound off below.